So the formalities that have been completed today, can you talk about that?
Well, the formalities have been completed. The Air India disinvestment transaction is closed. The shares have been transferred to the Thales, which is a successful bidder. Consideration amount has been received. And so now the new owners are the Thales.
Consider that full 2,700 crores was given?
Yes, please. Entire 2,700 crore has been received by the government. We have transferred the shares. Entire 15,300 crore of debt which was to be retained, that has also been accepted. So all the processes are complete.
So has the new board taken over?
New board is just doing a meeting now. Okay. So we have handed them over.
And you know who the new MD is and who this new CEO is?
The makeup of the new board?
Huh? How many members?
You will come to know. You will come to know.
Sir, how many members will be there on the board, sir? In the new board?
You will come to know because they will be, I think, separately decided.
The operations under Tata begin from today, tomorrow?
Today, just now, when as we speak, they are the new owners.
So from today onwards, Government of India has no stake anymore with Air India. It's all over in terms of any control with Air India from this moment.
That's right.
So currently, how many employees are we talking about that Tatas will have to take on board?
About 12,000. About 12,000.
So they'll have to retain them for at least 1 year?
Sir, एक बार हिंदी में बोल दीजिए सर, बता देंगे सर. एक बार हिंदी में बोल दीजिए सारा स्टेटमेंट.
आज जो एयर इंडिया की जो विनिवेश प्रक्रिया आरंभ हुई थी, वो आज समाप्त होती है. उसमें जो सक्सेसफुल बिडर टैलेस को दिया गया था, शेयर परचेज एग्रीमेंट जो साइन हुआ था, उसके हिसाब से सभी जो कंडीशंस हैं उनको फुलफिल करते हुए जो आज कंसिडरेशन अमाउंट 2,700 करोड़ का शेयर प्राइस के लिए और 15,300 करोड़ डेट रिटेंशन के लिए, इसके बाद भारत सरकार ने अपने 100% शेयर्स टैलिस के नाम कर दिए हैं और वो अब नई मैनेजमेंट में हैं.
As of now, what is the debt of Air India before the handover? What was the debt?
नहीं, उसके बारे में मैंने पहले भी आपको पूरा विस्तार में बताया था, तो आज तो मैं ये बता रहा हूँ. यदि आपको ज़्यादा इन्फॉर्मेशन चाहिए होगी मैं बात.
And sir, about the structure of airlines that will be under the Tata Group, because they will now have 4 airlines under their umbrella. So, how will they position these airlines?
ये क्वेश्चन आप उनसे पूछेंगे.
सर, औपचारिक रूप से ये कह सकते हैं कि अब एयर इंडिया सरकार के अधीन नहीं रहा?
जी.
ठीक है सर.
एयर इंडिया सरकार के अधीन अब नहीं रहा.
ठीक है सर. थैंक यू.
All right, well, so the official handover has happened at this point in time. Some important points here. The new board has now taken over. Details of the new board will also be released shortly. All the formalities have been completed. There are about 20,000 odd employees from Air India who will be retained. And those are some of the details. So as right of this moment, Air India is now no more with the government. It has been officially in all manner perspectives handed over to the Tatas. Tatas regaining the ownership of Air India. Historic moment here, coming around a full circle as far as Maharaja is concerned and going back to the Tatas at this point in time. Extremely important moment here that we have. We're just going to try and bring in some more perspective. Those are the details here that we have. The new board has also taken over. Details of that will also be out shortly. And the formalities have all been completed. Air India is no longer a government entity. It is now a privately owned entity and has been taken over by the Tatas. Those are the details that we have at this point in time. That was just announcement coming in of the final handover, the takeover that has happened. And 20,000 odd employees from Air India will be retained. Historic moment here. In fact, Tata chairman also met with Prime Minister Modi earlier on today. There will be no layoffs or staff changes for a year is what has been said at this point in time. So that's also an important point here as well. But this is that moment now that Maharaja is no longer with the government and has been taken over by the Tatas. Hina is joining me for more details. Hina, this is in fact quite the history or historic moment here, coming around a full circle. The Air India is now finally back with the Tatas.
Well, that's right. It is a historic moment for the entire aviation sector as well, because now officially Air India is no longer the national carrier. In fact, it is now a part of the Tata Group. It has been handed over completely by the government to the Tata Group. The official handover has happened just now, and that is a very, very big development, in fact, that has taken place. Remember, the government has been trying to, get out of the business of flying, especially by selling Air India for a very, very long time, but it was not able to find the suitable buyer. It tried very hard for the last few years. It had to sweeten the deal last year eventually, and finally the Tata Group emerged as the successful bidder, and government agreed to sell Air India to the Tata Group for about 18,000 crore rupees. We just heard that about 2,700 odd crore rupees has been received by the government. 15,300 odd crore rupees has been retained as the debt, and hence the transaction is over. It is done. So from this moment onwards, Air India, the Maharaja, has gone to the company where it came from. It is no longer a government airline. It is going to be a brand new private airline. That's what we can confirm for you. In fact, most of the experts in the aviation sector are now looking forward to the glorious days of the Maharaja returning, because remember, when it was launched by Mr. J.R.D. Tata way back, when he brought flying into India via Air India at that time, flying used to be luxurious. It was in fact just for the creme de la creme because of the kind of services that it really offered at that point in time. So most of the people in the country are feeling nostalgic as well. They are now remembering those times that we've spoken to so far, and they believe and they hope that, with Air India now finally going back to the Tata Group, those days for the Maharaja are likely to return, be it about the food that is served in the airline, the kind of services that are offered by Air India. Everything is set to change. But the most important issue here is now going to be about the employees of Air India. That was a huge concern. And, now at least one thing is for sure, that about 12,000 employees that Air India has right now, they will continue to be with the airline. They will not be laid off. They are not going anywhere. At least for the next 1 year, approximately 12,000 employees of Air India will continue to be with the airline. Tata Group cannot really, remove those particular employees. So that's a bit of an assurance that has come now, a relief for the employees as well. But we'll see how Tata Group really tackles other challenges that Air India as an airline is going to face. Because remember, the aircraft that it has right now, a lot of them need to be refurbished as well because they are pretty old. So the, all of that will also involve some cost. We'll also look forward to as to, who all are going to be in the board of Air India, who is going to head Air India now under the Tata Group, and what will happen to Vistara and AirAsia, the other two airlines that are also, run by the Tata Group. Will they be merged with Air India, or there is going to be something else that Tata Group has planned for Air India? So those are going to be some things that we will be looking forward to very, very closely. But for the moment, it's a historic moment clearly for the entire aviation sector. For Air India specifically, it has been handed over to the Tata Group officially, to Mr. N.Chandrasekaran, who earlier had a meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi as well before the official handover happened at the Airlines House in the national capital. That's the Air India headquarters in Delhi. And now the meeting is going on of the, of the process from here on, what happens next. So all eyes are going to be on what the Tata Group will have to say after the takeover. But one thing is clear, that from this moment onwards, it is not a government airline anymore. Government has sold its shares to the Tata Group completely.
Yes, absolutely, Hina. Please do stay on with us. Let me also quickly go across to Alok as well, who's joining us at this point in time. Alok, you were there, at that point in time. The official handover was also happening. A lot of activity as well. What can you tell us?
Well, yes, Avni, as Hina is telling to our viewers that now officially, now Air India is handed over to the Tata and Sons, and now Tata has taken over formally. I am just showing you the visuals here outside here. First, you see the media personals. Lot of media personals are still over here because the meeting of the board members, that the new board members, is still going on inside. Now, the second part, I am showing you the visuals here of the mascot. And also, if you see, this is the logo of the Air India. That is very important because why I'm showing it to you, that it is not going to be changed, at least for 1 year. It has, in fact, what we are learning, that the agreement has been made. For 1 year, nothing has going to be changed. The same logo and the same mascot will remain over there. So this is one part. The second part is the employees, which are the 12,000 employees. For at least 1 year, there will be no changes, no layoff. All the facilities, all the allowances which they are getting, they will keep getting it. So this is good for the 12,000 employees. Definitely, it is an emotional moment for these all employees as well. In fact, our colleague had also talked to the employees in Mumbai as well. But right now, emotional movement inside the headquarters at the national capital, because the officials are still there, and the new board has already been in the process of the formation.
Right.
And in fact, the board members are still continuing their meeting. So whenever they will come out, then we will definitely try to talk to them. But right now, it is officially that it has officially been announced that now the Air India has been taken over by the Tata and Sons. Back to you.
Yes, absolutely, Alok. We'll, of course, keep coming back to you for more details as well. But, Hina, coming back to you also here, the first question that would be on people's minds here is what happens tomorrow, what happens to my flights. But as we know, nothing is going to change immediately. The routes, the flights, everything, even the logo, like Alok was pointing out to, that will all remain intact, at least for the time being. So the question really is, going forward, there is going to be a lot to look for, to understand as to what are these changes going to mean, what are all the routes that Air India used to do, whether there's going to be changes there as well.
Well, as far as Air India is concerned, it's got some of the premium routes across the world, and Air India might have been a national airline for a very, very long time, but it has some of the best routes that any other airline in our country has. And in fact, if you look at globally as well, it flies to some of the best sectors in the world too. So what it brings to the Tata Group is clearly envious, because even though there are issues related to the on-time performance, etc., of course those are the challenges that Tata Group will have to work on, but there's not going to be any change as such as far as the routes of Air India are concerned, because it's got some premium routes. It's got flights to the US, direct flights to the US, which you will not see with any other airline in the country. So that's an advantage. That's like an asset of Air India that Tata Group has now got. Now, the key thing that's going to change is basically about, the service quality within Air India. And we are being told that already indication had come from the Tata Group that in 4 routes specifically, 2 from Mumbai to Delhi, 1 from Mumbai to Bengaluru, and 1 from Mumbai to Abu Dhabi, already plan was there that from today onwards only there's going to be meal enhancement. So better food is something that you can look forward to, Avni, next time you fly, in an Air India flight.
Hina, my sincere apologies for interrupting you, but I'm going to go across. We're getting in some more reactions as well. Jitendra Bhargav, aviation expert, and also who's been the former executive director of Air India, is joining us as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Bhargav, for taking the time out and speaking to us. For you as well, this, must be quite a moment here, historic moment, of course, for the entire industry, aviation industry as well. But the Air India is now no longer with the government. It has gone back to the Tatas, coming around a full circle.
For reacquiring Air India control, and one is very hopeful that once Air India is fully under Tata, like the process is beginning today, and they will build over it. And as Hina was very rightly saying, that Air India brings to Tata's a lot of strengths. We have for far too long focused on the negatives of Air India, because there are very many negatives. There's no denying the fact. On-time performance, poor upkeep of aircraft, etc., etc. But Tata will certainly take care of these things, because they know, having run Taj Hotels for a long time, they know what a product is, what a customer is looking for. And they will deliver for Air India, and it's only a question of time where people say, look, Air India is as good an airline as we can have, first in India, then in the Gulf region and Southeast Asia, and then in the world. It's a process that they will go through. There's no denying that heavy investment will have to be made, because Air India in the past few years did not have the money to make investment in enhancing the product quality. And that's perhaps the reason why government finally decided that Air India needs to be invested. So all said and done, a historic day for Air India. People can look forward to a much, much improved Air India. And what the country will gain is Indian civil aviation will have a paradigm shift, will witness it, and it will no longer be the Gulf carriers which will dominate the Indian skies, but Air India under Tata's. I'm very hopeful about it.
Yes, absolutely, Mr. Bhargav. So we do have, a lot of things to look forward to on how this entire, process is going to happen. But if you were to outline maybe, one or two things that you would think would happen first immediately at the earliest, what would that be in terms of the changes that are going to come about?
One is the software part of the product. As Hina made a mention of the meal service, improved wines that you serve on board, the customer, the attention that is given to a customer by the passengers, by the crew, cabin crew, etc., better turnout of cabin crew, good in-flight entertainment program, ground handling, the first interface point that a passenger has, baggage handling, all these things can be done. And then is the other aspect that there are very many low-hanging fruits for Air India. These are the issues that were neglected by the Air India management, either because they did not have enough money or they did not pay adequate attention. Once the professional management, which runs Air India now, devotes its time and energy, puts in the money, you will find the results coming out in the next 3 to 6 months. Then, of course, one is the long drawn-out process that is needed to really refurbish the aircraft. Make the aircraft interior as good as the customer would want. And then the third point is marketing. Once the product quality is improved, the on-time performance has been improved, marketing people can go on into the market and say, look, we are offering an absolutely lovely product. And with Tata's name attached to it, I think a lot many passengers who were hitherto not inclined to travel Air India would do so in future, thereby increasing the load factors, occupancy of seats on a flight, and thereby revenues and profitability. I am very sanguine about it, that positive changes are in the offing, and they will come as soon as in the short run and in the long run that one can look forward to.
Right, Mr. Jitendra Bhargav, this is Hina from the National Capital. I've spoken to you about the issue of Air India for a number of times in the past, and it's a historic moment, sir, today for the entire aviation sector. I want to ask you, what are your emotions this afternoon? Because you worked in Air India, and today it has gone back to where it came from. It is no longer a government airline. That was the announcement that was made by DIPAM Secretary, Mr. Tuhin Kantapane, a short while ago. What are your thoughts? What are your emotions right now?
You see, as I said very clearly, I wrote the book titled The Descent of Air India. I can say in categorical words, the story of Air India's ascent starts today. So there will be changes that will come, and I'm very, very sanguine about it. Let me tell you one thing. I've been a strong advocate of disinvestment for the last 20 years. It took that much time for the government to disinvest, but better late than never. So it is an emotional moment for everyone who was a well-wisher. And I have often said to Air India employees, both serving and retired, don't look from your personal perspective. Look at from the national perspective, look from the Air India's perspective. And if the airline does good, the better part of it will also flow to the existing employees. You will no longer have the threat of or uncertainty facing your carriers because you do not know where Air India is heading. But now there is an element of certainty that Air India has a bright future ahead. So what better assurance can be given to employees that, look, Air India is now in safe hands, number one. Number two, is in the hands of Tatas who had created the airline, who have an emotional attachment to the airline. So there is nothing negative about it. Be positive. Look at the future of Air India as I'm looking at, and I am 100% sure that Air India will not only dominate Indian skies, but global skies in the years to come.
Is that also, an idea for your next book, The Ascent of Air India, as you said, which begins from this moment, from this historic date, 27th of January, 2022?
And watch for another 6 months to a year. And if they are on the right track, which I'm very hopeful about, and because there's a lot that can be said about it. See, people still don't have the thing that, look, if Air India was not, and I've often stated, I think on your channel as well, it may not have been as good an airline as it ought to have been, but it's also not as bad an airline as it made out to be. So we have to look at this thing pragmatically, and there has to be some defense. Because of the bureaucrats handling or heading Air India, a lot of truth has not come out in public domain. And a lot of criticism has already coming, but there is no defense to it. So if there is a book, The Ascent of Air India, covering from the current state on what went wrong and what could have easily been resolved and how Tata brought about the changes, one I think would be, people will be very keen to learn about it, because you can also trace the history from 1953 to 1978. People forget. When Air India was in its glorious days, 1953 to 78, it was still a government-owned airline. So all that Air India requires is professional management, visionary leadership. That was not given in the post-78 period after J.R.D. Tata's unceremonious dismissal from the airline.
Yes. Mr. Bhargav, now, we are yet to get details about the board of Air India. From now on, the meeting is going on. We don't know really who's going to head the airline in the Tata Group. All those things we are going to be looking forward to. But in your opinion, given the current state of affairs, what could be 2 or 3 big challenges that Tata Group will have to deal with, say, in the first phase after the takeover today?
You see, in a service industry, employees play a pivotal role. The morale of the employees is extremely low, both because of the salary cuts, deferred payments, etc. Then lack of leadership. So once this is provided by a professional management, you will see the employees performing. And then, of course, is the factor that the government agreement is that employees have to be retained for 1 year. Who would like to lose his job? So the employees will put their best foot forward and deliver. Then, of course, is the aircraft. The aircraft maintenance will have to be geared up. Investment made in improving the quality of seats, upholstery, in-flight entertainment, and the human touch, of course, is the cabin crew, which do good jobs at times, but there is no consistency at the moment. But once the work practices are re-engineered, made more productive, made more efficient, you'll find the results coming out. I am very sanguine, let me tell you, that milk service on certain sectors will be changed from tomorrow. So you will find the kind of good...
Okay,
kind of
last question, sir. Yes, last question, sir, before we let you go. Now, Tata already has got Tata Vistara as well as Air Asia. So what will be the right strategy? Because now it's going to be the 3rd airline that Tata Group will be operating. Should it be merged? Should it be kept separately? Because we haven't really heard anything officially from the Tata Group on this matter.
No, they have done a due diligence before submitting the bid for Air India. We could not have ignored this aspect that we also have a couple of other airlines, and it is not Air India, but also Air India Express. So it's a very logical thing that the merger takes place, because you can't have Vistara and Air India flying to London and competing with each other. So a stage will come, but it cannot be immediate because there is a perception that you have of Vistara and of Air India. They will find the right time for it and say, this is the time when we got to look and merge the two airlines and say, this is the name that we're given. Likewise, Air Asia with Air India Express, there is no reason in duplicating. And you see, the leaner an organization, the more efficient it is and more economically viable it becomes. And considering that Indian market is hugely price sensitive, cost will be a key factor for Tatas, because you cannot say, look, Kingfisher was a great airline, Jet Airways was a great airline, but they couldn't survive the Indian market for the simple reason of the price sensitivity and the competition you get from low-cost airline. So there has to be a management that is very efficient and runs it with the minimal cost that you can. And you see, and I'm very sure about it, the Tatas have done the groundwork, done their homework, and they will take the requisite steps from this evening onwards.
All right. All right. Appreciate you joining us, Mr. Jitendra Bhargav. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for your perspective on this particular story. So, Avni, you heard it from somebody who has been in Air India, a very, very emotional moment there for him and for the other employees of Air India that we've spoken to since morning. But now, hopefully, things are likely to look much better for the aviation sector. Back to you.
Absolutely, Hina. Thank you so much for all of that. On that note, it's time to wrap up this edition. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned tomorrow now.